Thistledew Farm.
Hey everyone, so it's Sunday on Thistledew Farm, and Sunday means gravy day. And in Italian American houses, Sunday gravy came about because we were poor and we had to use all of our meat from the whole week and create a really beautiful Sunday dinner. So when you approach your Sunday gravy, know that you can't make any mistakes. It's all about tasting as you go and slow cooking. And so today, the most important thing is that we have the access to fresh ingredients, which here at the farm, we have these beautiful Principessa Borghese cherry tomatoes that are very sweet. So I don't even have to use sugar in my sauce, and a lot of people do use sugar in their sauce. And then these are your classic San Marzano tomatoes, and I use a mix of both, and you'll see both of those here today. And you'll notice that each one of these is already pre-scored. I do that because I blanch the tomatoes in hot water, and then I run them through a sieve to take off these skins, or a food mill. Thank you, David. A food mill to take off the skins. I actually like the seeds. A lot of people don't. I do like the seeds because I think it adds texture with the meat, and I will show you how we do that shortly. So I've got my pot of boiling water here. It's ready to go. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna slowly drop in these tomatoes, and I'm only gonna keep them in for about not even 30 seconds. They start to rise up and you start to see the peel come off. And when they do, I take them out immediately and let them cool down. And then, and here you go, here's a perfect example. Look at this guy. That is what you want to see on your blanched tomatoes. So, as with any cooking, sometimes things go wrong, and that mill didn't work out so well. So now I'm peeling all of the tomatoes by hand. And this is exactly why we score them. So that when you take a cherry tomato like this, and you can see it's already starting to peel from the hot water blanching, I can just go like that, and the peel's off, and it's done. It's super simple. I'll do it with, let's get a different one. Let's get a good one. Here we go. You can see it peeling, and you take it off. Now, some people love peels in their sauce. I don't. I think it makes it a little bit tannic. So I prefer to remove all my peels. For me, it's worth the extra work. The tomatoes are all done. Only about an hour later, with some help from my friends. And I've started cooking the protein now. So I've got about 6 yellow onions that I've roughly chopped, and I am sauteing those. And then now I'm starting on the Italian pork sausage. There's about 2 pounds of Italian pork sausage for, I guess I would say probably 6 to 8 pounds of tomatoes we're working with today. Okay, so my Italian pork sausage is almost done. And the reason that I don't season this is Italian sausage is already seasoned, but the ground sirloin that I've decided to use for the gravy tonight, I need to season. In part because it's a very lean sirloin, and it doesn't have any seasoning mixed in. Now, some people season their sauce into the tomatoes once it's all going. I actually like to season the meat, and that I learned from Mr. David Beam, because it takes on the flavor. So we're gonna use a little bit of dried rosemary, and remember too, you can, once your sauce is going, you can add things in as you go. So we're gonna add a little bit of rosemary, a little bit of oregano, some dried parsley. This one doesn't have a shaker. We're just gonna go like that. I like to experiment. We're gonna see what the thyme does. We're gonna add a little bit of thyme, or add a little bit of French tarragon as well, and just see how that treats this meat. We're gonna of course add some fresh cracked pepper.
I didn't know that you could have gotten all those fresh, right?
Yeah, but I like them dry.
Okay.
And we're gonna add some salt here, some kosher salt. David's right, you can absolutely do fresh, but if you don't have the benefit of being on Thistledew Farm, your pantry aisle will do just fine for the season. So now I'm gonna start with the mirepoix. And with any cooking, you know that the mirepoix is onion, celery, and carrots. Well, we've already sweated the onion before we cook the meat, so that's already done. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take about 8 to 10 stems of celery, about a pound of baby carrots. I like the rainbow ones because let's get creative. And a bunch of parsley. I'm gonna throw this all in a food processor. I don't want it to be too fine. I still want to be able to see active chunks in it. And then I'm going to use that to start my sauce. And by the way, if you want to get all of the ingredients for this recipe, later on tonight on tucimama.com, we'll have the full recipe up for you. All right. So here's our mirepoix. It's about half of it because we had to do it in batches. I'm gonna go ahead and put this right into this giant saucepan. And I'm gonna let this cook for a little bit and let those flavors meld. It is the basis of your sauce. This, you really need to let it sit and cook a little bit. So while the mirepoix is on the stove cooking, I'm gonna go ahead and just run these peeled tomatoes that we've spent all afternoon peeling through the Cuisinart. You'll notice I didn't clean the Cuisinart. You really don't have to. It's all gonna get mixed up in there, all those good flavors. And this sauce is gonna cook a long time. So don't worry about being neat and tidy. So once you've sweat your mirepoix down and it's cooked, now's the time for the magic. So we start adding, batch by batch, the fresh tomatoes that we've spent today preparing. And like I said, this is a very, very rustic sauce. So I want big chunks in this. It's also gonna cook an extraordinarily long time. So don't sweat the big chunks. They're gonna cook down, they're gonna break up, and it's gonna, in the end, make a really delicious Sunday gravy. All right, guys, we're cooking with gas now. So all of those tomatoes have been processed. And in the last batch of tomatoes, I added a big handful of fresh basil from Thistledown and let that get chopped up with the tomatoes. So you can see we've got a big pot of sauce going. And now I've taken the sirloin and the sweet Italian sausage and the onions. I've mixed those all together. Those are going in the pot next. So I'm already ready for it, and I'm gonna need all of my Italian friends in Tuscany and Puglia to just hang on a minute, because I know it's either onion or garlic, and never the twain shall meet, but not in Italian and American cooking. So, so I'm crushing a little bit of garlic to add to the sauce, but the other thing that I wanted to show you, which is my little secret to this sauce, is portobello mushrooms that I have been reconstituting in red wine overnight. And this just adds the most delicious earthiness to the sauce. So I will add both the garlic and the portobello mushrooms into the sauce, and it'll just liven it up a little bit more. All right, guys, the heavy lifting is totally done. And thanks to my friends at Anna Atelier, who helped me with all of the chopping and prepping of the tomatoes, and David, of course, here at Thistledown. That sauce is gonna cook now for the next probably 6 to 10 hours. I'm just gonna leave this guy on there and let it sit. And the art now in making sauce is all about your own palate and what you like. As that sauce cooks down, I'm gonna continue to add liquid. I'm gonna add the red wine that my portobello mushrooms were reconstituted in. I'm gonna add chicken broth, beef broth, and bone broth to bring the liquid back up and then cook it down again. It's all about just intensifying the flavors. If I need to punch up the tomato flavor a little bit, which not with David's tomatoes, but if you have store-bought tomatoes, you might want to add a little bit of tomato paste. And I'll also throw in a little bit of red wine, this is a Susamagnello from Puglia, my people. And I'll just continue to add these things over the next 6 to 8 hours. And then at the end, what you've got is Sunday gravy. Throw it over a beautiful pasta with some freshly grated Parmigiano Reggiano, and you're done. So just a reminder, you can go to teuccimama.com, TEUCCIMAMA.com for the full recipe. And I do need to give credit where credit is due, which is to Marilyn Stallone, who is my sister's mother-in-law, who taught me how to make sauce many, many years ago. This is the heart of this recipe is hers. I've made it my own, and I encourage you to make it your own.